Welcome to NJ Law, the program designed to inform and educate you about the inner workings of our criminal justice system, allowing you to speak directly to New Jersey law enforcement officials who make the decisions in our two-county area. Your host, Detective Sergeant Kevin Quinn of the Township of Ocean Police Department, is an 11-year veteran police officer. He has taught at the Monmouth County Police Academy and has lectured at Monmouth College and Brookdale College.
Hi, I'm Kevin Quinn. Welcome to NJ Law. My guest tonight is Prosecutor John Kaye, to my left, who's certainly been a prosecutor since I just found out in 1983. I knew that already. It was on the test, which makes it a 9-year career, and certainly made great strides within the county. Thanks for taking the time out to come. I appreciate it. And we probably talked about everything we needed to talk to before we went on camera, so we're pretty much done. You folks at home need to know that our phone number here is 681-3330. That's 681-3330. If you have any questions for the prosecutor or myself, we'll be certainly glad to try to comment on them. And this is an open forum, and it's also interactive television, so pick up your phone, start dialing, please. One of the things we're going to be discussing is drugs in the workplace, in which the prosecutor will start in a second and make a presentation. And also we're going to talk about several other law enforcement related issues within the county area. Once again, thanks for coming, especially on a dreary night like tonight. I know you almost blew away in the parking lot. Drugs in the workplace seem to be, have we identified that as a major problem here in Monmouth County? I know it certainly is in the news and on national news anyway. What's our problem like here?
Our problem here is no different than anywhere else, Kevin. We have a lot of people that use drugs recreationally that are not quite at the level of being addicts, who are employed like any other employee, stand right next to the other guy either in the factory or the office, and appear to be, for all intents and purposes, sober. But in fact, that's not so. In fact, the statistics show that 1 out of every 4 people between 18 and 34 years of age are frequent users of cocaine and marijuana. In fact, this last summer we did a major operation in Asbury Park. We called it TNT, but the people in the Asbury Park area refer to them as the Jump Out Boys. And before we went in there to start making arrests, we filmed with our surveillance cameras known areas of drug activity. So we would set up a block from a certain street corner, and we could watch what was going on, and we would know who was selling and where they were going and how they were hiding the money. When I was reviewing the films, I was surprised to find out how many people buy drugs at the crack of dawn. That is, after they've gone over to the 7-Eleven and get their cup of coffee, they then drive to a street corner in Asbury Park to pick up heroin. Mostly heroin was sold in the early morning. The other thing that surprised me is the automobiles that they were driving and the trucks and vans that they were driving. All these people were going to work. They weren't the stereotype of the drug addict that you see living in some old ruined urban building laying in a scruffy corner with a needle laying out of their arm. These people were, for all intents and purposes, productive members of society. They were on their way to work, and they're picking up heroin. So it was our feeling, and this is a pretty common deal. We got involved with preaching about problems in the workplace because it dovetails into our plan on decreasing demand. If you can decrease demand, then the drug problem essentially goes away. So we thought, gee, we're not going to do this by arresting everybody. You know yourself how much time you spent in the schools and how we're talking to the kids. And that's working. I mean, in fact, drug use is decreasing with the younger kids. But we thought to help that along, there ought to be standards and conditions of employment in the workplace, one of which would be that you're drug-free. Mm-hmm. Now, people don't seem to have any problem with alcohol. I mean, you come to work drunk, your boss is going to at least send you home, probably order you to have some kind of counseling, and might fire you. In fact, might fire you right on the spot. If you come to work drunk a second time, you are fired. I mean, that's pretty unusual, unless you're the boss's son. You know, that you may get a little special favor there. But there doesn't seem to be any problem with that. People say, fine, that's okay. If a guy's a drunk and he's trying to come to work, he can injure the people he's working with. He can make a lousy product, which the public isn't going to be happy with. He's probably going to hurt himself while he's working, and therefore he'll have a claim against either the employer or the manufacturer of the machine he hurts himself with. So I'm not going to take the chance. The employer says, I'm not going to take the chance. But when it comes to people that come to work on cocaine or marijuana, it's not as obvious. But the effects are the same. Mm-hmm. So what we've done is we've tried to go out and explain why there ought to be a written policy for a company, any company, as to how they treat drugs, so all the employees know how they do it. And we recommend that they test. And if you want to explain, if you want me to explain how we get into what you do about testing and how we do it, we can do that too.
Yeah, let me just, if I might, I don't mean to interrupt. Let me jump to the phone here because
Sure.
I believe we. Good evening.
Good evening.
How you doing?
This is Mike from Wall Township.
Yes.
I have a question for either one of you gentlemen regarding something I read in the Wall Township municipal budget. In 1991, under court costs and fines, they collected $435,000. In 1992, they anticipate collecting $571,000, which is an increase of $135,000 or 31%. What I'd like to know, is there a quota on tickets, do you think? And is there going to be that much of an increase in Wall Township in crime?
I'm really surprised, Mike, that they would project that kind of an increase.
Well, I saw it in black and white. I read the budget.
No, I'm not saying that you're wrong.
No,
I'm just surprised to see that. The money that's collected in municipal court is collected for fines that are given on disorderly persons offenses or motor vehicle offenses. Yeah. And the motor vehicle stuff, most of that goes to Trenton. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it's sort of a pass-through. If the town gets ordinance violations, that's, you're not walking your dog properly, you violate a side yard requirement, that all goes 100% to the municipality. And under certain circumstances, the town could probably make some money on that. But
it just amazes me that they expect an increase of that much, okay, in 1 year. I mean, that's an awful increase.
I'm surprised. I really am.
And I just, when they make these budgets, they make them at the beginning of the year, okay? And last year they projected $435,000, and that's exactly what they collected. To me, that sounds like a little quota system.
Yeah, well, I'm unaware of any quota system anywhere in this county nor in this state. I've heard people complain every now and then about it, but I have never seen it. And I was a municipal prosecutor for 13 years before I became county prosecutor, so I handled those sort of cases. I was in the municipal courts, at least in the western part of the county, all the time. And I hung around on a daily basis with the cops. I don't do that now, but I did then. I never heard it bragged about or talked about ever.
Well, if towns are considering making money that way, that's pretty sure. That's pretty.
It's illegal, I might tell you.
It's illegal, and first of all, I think it's a fallacy to depend on monies like that to run your town with.
Yeah, I know. Wall Township is a very big town, has a lot of ratables. I would be very surprised to think that they actually depend upon that in any way. I can also tell you their police department, which is a large department, hasn't increased in size appreciably from last year to this year. And I don't think that Chief Clausen, Bob Clausen, who's the new chief, has any new plans about raising extra revenue from municipal court fines, at least not that I've heard of.
The other question I have for Prosecutor Kaye, do you think Mr. McCluskey's characterization of the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office as uncooperative was fair?
Well, let me tell you what. I'll answer your question in sort of a roundabout way. I have always felt that Damaso Vega was guilty. I still feel that he is. So if someone asks me to, in essence, open up the jail door for someone that I'm convinced is guilty, my response may be seen as uncooperative.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In this particular case, however, we did give the files to the attorney who represented Vega and, I assume, to this religious person. And they looked at it. We went into court. We objected. We fought it. We thought that he was guilty and still do.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your call.
Bye-bye.
We have a call from Asbury Park. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, are you there, Ann?
Yes, I am. I just wanted to thank Mr. Kaye for the wonderful job his task force did in Asbury Park. When they are here, honestly, I would be willing to even pay more money in taxes to keep his task force in Asbury Park. The only problem is when his task force is no longer here, they're back.
Yeah, well, and, you know, we've been back ourselves. We went back in December for what we called maintenance, made 67 street arrests in a one-week period, and I can tell you we are coming back. As soon as the weather warms up, we will definitely be back in Asbury Park. I've sat down with the people. It's on the drawing boards. And the odd thing is, even though I'm on TV talking about it and I'm talking with you, our targets are still going to be there.
You tell me.
They're waiting for us.
I know it, but I'm telling you, it was just so wonderful for the little while that we had peace. And that was only after your task force was here.
Thank you very much, Ann.
You're welcome, and keep the good job up.
Thanks for calling. Very infrequently do we get good calls.
Well, that's unusual, isn't it? It's flattering, though. You know, when we went to the housing project there, after we'd pulled out of the operation, a group of the residents came in, sat down there, mostly women, and I said to them, the operation's over, could you critique it for me? You know, what did we do wrong? And I specifically mentioned at the end of the operation we were accused of being racist. So I said, do you feel that that was so? What mistakes did we make? And a woman stood up and she said, you made one big mistake. And I said, what's that? She said, you left. So everybody felt pretty good. I mean, I was surprised. And the guys that worked the street who did the work and were in the danger, they really felt very proud. They said in all their lives as a cop, they'd never been complimented like that.
It doesn't come often.
No.
So it's great to hear it when it happens.
Yeah, and the good news is nobody got hurt in that deal. I mean, we had a couple of bang-ups and a broken finger here and there, but, I mean, nobody really got hurt, and that says a lot.
Certainly in that kind of operation, there's a propensity for that, too. I believe we have Glenn from Ocean.
Yeah, hi, Kevin.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Good, Glenn. How are you?
Good. I don't have anything on the drug problem whatsoever. My problem is with the prosecutor's office themselves.
Okay.
I'm a victim of violent crime. I was shot in the back in Ocean Township while I was working at a gas station. And it happened 2 years ago on July 29th. And my question is, the Ocean Township Police Force was the very best. The hospitals were the very best. Everybody treated me with the most respect that I could ever be treated with in my life. As far as the prosecutor's office goes, I think they're a bunch of liars. What happened to me was, I forget who the prosecutor was that was working on my case, called me up and said that they went for a plea bargain. And when they plea bargained, he said, we're going to go for 20 over 10. And I said, oh, I don't want to go for that. He goes, oh, I know that, Mr. Henry. We're going to do much, much better than that. And I said, okay, that's good. A couple months later, down the road, he calls me back and goes, we settled for 18 over 8. And I go, well, aren't you supposed to contact me first and ask me about this? And he goes, I'm sorry, things just happen real fast, and that's just the way it is. You don't have no say in this. And that was it. And I thought that was very wrong on their part.
Yeah, Glenn, I agree with you. It is wrong. In fact, I just jotted down your name here. I'm going to find out tomorrow morning exactly what happened in that case, because one of the rules that I have, and it's hardly ever broken, is that no case is resolved by negotiation or plea agreement unless the victim of the crime agrees with it, period. Now, I'll find out what happened, but it's too late to do anything about it.
Yeah, I know that.
Mean, if the plea's gone through, that's over.
Yeah.
But that should have never happened. I don't know what to say to you other than it shouldn't have happened.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks for your call, Glenn. I think that's important to note, because I know of your policy, and I've seen the folks running for for cover when you're on the warpath about that.
It doesn't always work too, because I mean sometimes you have a victim that can be so unrealistic in the hope that they have that there's nothing you can do. But even in those cases, normally what I say is if we have a victim who we feel is being unreasonable and we can't explain things to, we just try the case. And then, let the jury determine guilt, and then let the judge determine what the sentence is based upon the law. And that way, at least we can't be accused of having done something behind the victim's back. You know, I look at the victims as clients, in a sense. And to me, that's our biggest responsibility, is the victims. I mean, that's why I have a reputation for saying some rather uncharitable things about the people that we bring into the criminal justice system, because I literally don't care about them. As far as I'm concerned, they're on the other side for me. I care about the victims. So I'm concerned about what Glenn said, and I'll look into it.
Thank you. Getting back to what we were discussing about testing and such, obviously in the private sector, they certainly have to protect themselves because, well, we see it in the public sector. It's hard to fire somebody, and especially if you don't have established work rules. If you don't say, don't do this or this happens, then when it happens and you say, okay, we're going to make it up today, you're in a real problem. So what can employers do? How can they protect themselves? And as long as we're talking about that, if they try to set up that type of, can they get any help from the prosecutor's office?
Well, they can get help from us, but also, I'm not Jerry Brown, but I have an 800 number.
Okay.
And it's an 800 number that the United States Public Health Service puts out. It's 1-800-843-4971, and I called it today just to make sure that it's still working. What they do is they provide employers information on how to set up a program. But I'll tell you quickly how it's done, because we did it. I did it in the prosecutor's office. And I did it for two reasons. The first reason is half of my staff carry guns. Mm-hmm. And I certainly can't afford to have a situation where someone might be impaired walking around with a firearm. I mean, that's a rather lethal object. And the other reason is, as police, we get accused every now and then of being dirty ourselves. If I have an undercover cop, and you know you did this for a while, you're making a buy from a dealer. The first defense he sets up is that you were using it just like he was using it. So that's one of the things I wanted to check on. So the first thing we did was we tried to explain the problem to the entire staff, so they all understood it. Everybody sort of nodded their head. I don't know whether they understood it or not. But what we did is we set up a committee of the employees. We took people from the clerical staff, we took people from the investigative staff, we took people from the legal staff, and we put them together and we said, you come up with a policy yourself on what you would like in this office insofar as a drug-free workplace. And what they did was they said, well, first of all, it ought to be the same for everybody. If you're a cop carrying a gun or a woman at a typewriter, it doesn't make any difference. The rules are the rules, and they apply. And if you break the rules, then you suffer the consequences. Everybody says, okay, that's fine. Second thing was they said it must be written. So everybody gets a copy. Fine, agreed with that. Third thing was all new applicants for jobs, every single new applicant gets drug tested. And we do that. Existing employees are not tested unless there's reasonable suspicion to believe that they have a substance problem. And there can be a lot of factors in that. You know, there could be, it's not an unsubstantiated rumor. It's not, I don't like you, so I'm trying to get you. So I go tell the boss that I saw you with some powder sticking out of your nose. There has to be more to it than that. In fact, we formed a little committee that if an allegation is made like that, there's a 3-person committee that reviews and determines whether or not that's appropriate. Plus, there's another added thing that we have an annual physical. Everyone that gets the annual physical, they're tested right there at that spot. Now, that you could doctor that. I mean, that's possible. I remember we've had some problems in a few police departments that have similar rules, and what they'll do is, if they announce a test, say, all right, Kevin, you're going to be tested tomorrow. Well, tomorrow you're sick. Then you don't come to work for a couple of days. Then the lawyer files a suit saying that you shouldn't be tested under any circumstances, so now the clock is running. So finally, after 35 or 40 days, you say, oh, all right, I'll drop my suit. You can test me now. Well, sure. Yeah. That's because you're clean. That only gives rise to a suspicion for a subsequent test. But essentially, that's how we did it. We also trained our supervisory personnel so they could recognize symptoms of people with drug problems. With that as a basis, we implemented the program, and we've used it a couple times, I'll tell you. But what we do is we don't fire people on the first determination. There's a mandatory employment assistance program which the county goes to, and they go to counseling. I've had a couple of my employees had a real serious problem with alcohol. They've gone into counseling. They took the 28 days. They're absolutely terrific. The model employees, as far as I know, they haven't had a subsequent problem of any sort. I had some drug people that used to work for me, people that were under drugs. This was before I had the policy. I fired them. Yeah. Now, the way the policy is set up, if they're caught as users, they would be put into a program. Second time, they're out. And if they're a dealer, if they're selling drugs or dealing, they're fired automatic. That's without question.
Right now, I just want to interrupt you for a second, take a deep breath, because we're going to go to a little public safety spot on, I believe, seatbelts. And we'll be right back with you.
In a 60-mile-per-hour collision, your car will hit you with the same force it would if it were dropped on you from 120 feet. Your automatic shoulder belts and lap belts are the only things that will keep you from being crushed. Think about that the next time you're tempted to disconnect them.
Hi, we're back. Hopefully you enjoyed that. We did. We were just talking about poppy seeds during the break because somebody mentioned that to me once. I'm sorry.
It's a false positive.
Okay.
Yeah. There are ways. That's one of the big problems with testing is that samples can be substituted or adulterated. In Florida, they test you for DWI by urine. You know, not like we do up here. We use breath.
Yeah.
They do it by urine. When in bars in Florida, you can buy urine. It's already packaged for you. And when you're told to give the sample, you just rip open this thing and you dump it into the cup and you hand it out. Now, Florida knows about that, so what they do now is they test the sample to determine its temperature, and then there's another little thing that they use to test. But also, you can adulterate. I mean, a little drop of lemon juice will completely change the way that the cells are, and it'll mask just about anything. You use Drano, lemon juice. There's a whole bunch of other, like Visine, that sort of stuff. That supposedly works really well. In fact, Pascual Perez. Remember Pascual Perez, the pitcher for the Yankees?
Yeah.
Right. He got caught the second time. It's an all sporting teams test now as a regular thing. And I thought it was interesting what he said. He had 4 reasons why he was being picked on in this test. The first thing he said was, they switched the sample on me. The second thing he said was, the Yankees were out to frame him. The third thing he said was that Fay Vincent, the baseball commissioner, was out to frame him. And the fourth thing he said was, the Yankees should have taken care of him when he was on vacation. So the answer is, with a drug person, the person that's into drugs, they're never going to admit it's their problem. It's always somebody else that's causing the problem. And unless there is something to make them really change the way they are, they're not going to. And the only thing that will change them is a job. I mean, this is the big deal. You've got to bring home the bacon. Without income, you lose your home, you lose your family.
You lose your drugs.
and certainly your drugs would have to be first. So we think it has a big impact. In New Jersey, by the way, the Business Journal of New Jersey says that 25% of all New Jersey businesses already do test on a regular basis, and that nationwide, of firms that employ more than 1,000 people, 43% of those test. That's a lot.
Yeah,
I mean, then when you add in New Jersey transit tests, I know they do because when Tom Gagliano was there, he sent me their standards. The FAA tests for all your pilots, all the nuclear agencies, all the sports teams. Our police academy tests, and I'm sure all the other ones. Most of the police departments test these days. I mean, there's a lot of this testing going on, and most people don't feel it's an intrusion because they have nothing to worry about. But they also feel safer knowing that the guy next to them hasn't got a problem.
Yeah. Let me pause once more. The phone lines are really lit up tonight. Hi, I think we have Chris.
Yes.
Oh, good.
I have a question from earlier tonight about the ordinances. I've noticed when I've driven into Tinton Falls and East Brunswick in particular, the ordinance saying discharge of firearms and bows restricted.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that. I got picked up in October for hunting in Ocean Township. How come in Ocean Township there is not the sign in Ocean Township anywhere when you come into the town that has that ordinance posted.
That it's restricted?
That it's restricted.
You can't discharge a firearm at all in Ocean. If I'm not mistaken, the ordinance says something about if you have a tract of land 5 acres or more that you belong to, you may discharge a firearm. I don't think we have 25 acres left unscathed within the township that you can.
He wants to know why you don't have a sign up, though.
Good question.
And that is a legitimate question, I think.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm driving around town now in my head, and I don't think I see a sign either. I can certainly bring that up to the proper authorities, and hopefully they'll...
Well, the area borders Tinton Falls,
right,
Ocean Township, and Eatontown, and it is well over 25 acres. That's why I was wondering, because I don't see the signs on 18 or what. There is one section on West Park Avenue that I see the signs posted that says no hunting.
Right.
But I don't see anything there that it's marked for the ordinance.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, Chris, you're a hunter, obviously, and I am too, so I've paid some attention to these laws. Where it says no hunting is not the same as the ordinance restriction. The ordinance restriction is a way to get around the state law. The state law says that you may not possess a firearm within, I believe it's 500 or 1,000 feet, I'm not quite certain, of a building which is occupied. Is it 500 and or a roadway? So the state has preempted the field. For a municipality to get involved at all, they pass an ordinance saying you cannot fire the weapon.
Right.
All right? And that's been, Marlborough Township has had one for a long time out near where I live in Freehold Township. And as the suburban sprawl keeps going throughout Monmouth County, there are more and more towns that are adopting these ordinances. I know myself now, when I hunt, I go to the Catskills, so everything's bigger up there.
Yeah, obviously.
Thanks for your call.
Thank you.
I believe we're jumping to Tony?
Tom.
Tom, I'm sorry.
Getting back to the drug test.
Yeah.
Would it show a difference between intoxication at work and intoxication at home?
Okay.
If I smoked a joint at a concert, came back to work on a Monday, decided to test me.
Right, yeah, Tony, the thing that drug tests don't do is tell you the level that you're at. For example, most people recognize on alcohol testing that if you have a .10 or greater, you're deemed to be drunk. And if you have a .10 or less, you're considered not drunk. Drug testing doesn't give you that parameters. They just give you a presence. In other words, marijuana is in your system. And that's all it tells you, and that's all you need, by the way, for us if we were trying to convict you for, say, driving while drugged. That's all we'd need. The problem that you have with marijuana is, in most people, it lasts in your system and is detectable in your system for a period of 27 days. The reason for that is because you smoke it. A lot of insurance companies now, life insurance companies, that ask you that question, do you smoke? Because they have a different rate if you don't smoke. They don't take urine test. What they do is they take a couple of hairs from your groin, and they say that will show for up to 4 months whether or not you've had any smoked material in your lungs.
So if anything's in there, I could lose my job if they decide to start testing on mine.
That's absolutely correct. If on your
be straight at work,
right,
perform my job well, just on the basis of something I did in the last 4 months.
That's correct. If your company had such a policy, that could be so. I can tell you one thing that they claim that they can tell the difference between, and I don't know whether that's ever been litigated, is whether or not it's passive or not. So, for example, if you're in a car with your girlfriend and she's smoking a joint and you're just driving, I think most people agree that you will get some of that into your system. Now, when they test, I don't know how they can differentiate between the fact that you were not actually smoking the marijuana.
The difference between me smoking 1 and her smoking 5.
Well, okay, that's true too. Yeah, that's right, and that is a problem that has not been addressed. But you know, one of the arguments for testing in the workplace is that people who are drug people or drug-dependent people get to learn who tests and who doesn't. So the employer runs the risk of having a whole employment cadre of druggies. So, it cuts both ways, I guess.
Thanks for your call. Nope, I think he's gone. Greg?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, good.
All right.
I
This
got
question
one.
is for John